Reggae Just Extra with Ras Dennis.
Bob Marley's name is synonymous with reggae and service, two of his life's works that live on in his children. The singer's biopic, Bob Marley, One Love, opened in theaters February 14th and paints a picture of what his life was like in the late 1970s before his passing in 1981 at age 36 from malignant melanoma. The jamming singer is survived by 13 children and his widow, Serita Marley, with whom he raised 5 kids. This is the Bob Marley's family tree with Ras Dennis.
You are now watching Reggae Just Extra's Bob Marley's Family Trees edition.
Bob Marley's mother Sidella began her romance with Captain Norville Marley, a colonial supervisor, when he was 50 years old, and she was merely 17. Norville Marley's family was made up of white Jamaicans from the parish of Clarendon. Norville was relocated for work purposes to St. and where Sidella had grown up and resided. For a long period of time, the love affair between the black teenager and aging army captain went unnoticed. However, when Sidella discovered that Norville unintentionally impregnated her in May of 1944, her and Norville were both afraid and proud, and Norville decided that the two should marry. After convincing Sidella's father that the marriage was a good idea, the wedding of Captain Norville Marley and Sidella was set for June 9, 1944. However, a week or so before the wedding date, Norville informed Sidella that his chronic hernia had begun to aggravate him and as a result he would be changing jobs and moving to Kingston. A few months later, on a Tuesday evening, Sidella went into labor and at 2:30 Wednesday morning, February 6, 1945, she gave birth to a baby boy without her husband present. Sidella didn't name the child at his birth but waited for the child's father to return from Kingston to decide on a fitting name. Shortly after word had reached Norville that his wife had delivered their son, the captain returned to St. End for a week and Norville decided that the baby boy should be called Nestor Robert Marley. The absence of Norville during his wife's pregnancy and at the birth of his son, as well as the brief visit by the captain to name the child, were the beginnings of a pattern of fatherly behavior that would continue for years. Every month or so, when he could get away, Norville Marley came up to St. End to visit Sidella. However, as the years passed and pressure mounted from Norville's family, most notably his mother, the relationship between the white army captain and the black country girl cooled off. As Marley became older, his father's visits became increasingly less frequent until the man eventually completely abandoned Marley and his mother by severing all contact. After Norville's death in 1955, Sidella and Bob moved to Trenchtown, a slum neighborhood in Kingston. This was the only place Booker could afford to live at the time, being a young woman moving from the country to the big city on her own. While living in Trenchtown, Booker gave birth to a daughter, Claudette Pearl, with Thaddeus Livingston, the father of Bunny Wailer, who formed the original Wailers trio with Bob Marley and Peter Tosh in 1963. She then married Edward Booker, an American civil servant, and resided first in Delaware, where she gave birth to 2 more sons, Richard and Anthony, with Booker. After Edward Booker's death in 1976, Sidella moved to Miami, Florida. In 1990, Anthony, Bob's half-brother, was killed in a shootout with Miami police after walking through a shopping mall with a 12-gauge shotgun and opening fire on responding police. Booker lived in Miami for the remainder of her life. Bob Marley's hit song, One Love, was more than just a hit single for the international reggae artist, but an anthem that embodied his way of life. No one knew this more than his wife and the other 7 women who became mothers of his children. Between the 8 women, Serita Marley, Cheryl Murrah, Janet Bowen, Lucy Pounder, Janet Hunt, Anita Belnays, Cindy Breakspear, and Pat Williams, the Jamaican icon fathered 13 children. Alfarita Constantia Anderson and Bob were married in 1966 when she was 20 and he was 21. The two met when Rita formed a singing trio called the Solettes and had worked with Bob as a vocal and recording coach. They were work friends, but through his persistent courting, it became something else. Here's everything to know about Bob Marley's children and how they've helped his music and message live on for generations. Immani Marley. Both Rita and Bob had children before they were married. His first daughter, Immani Marley, was born on May 22, 1963, to him and her mother Sharon Marley. He was 18 at the time. Little is known about Immani or her mother. Immani lives a low-key life in Atlanta and is not listed as one of the Marley children on his official website. However, she is linked to Minnie and Bob's circumference, and when Bunny Whalers died in 2021, she posted her condolences on social media, writing, "My Uncle Livy died this morning." The last of the original Whalers has gone to join that everlasting jam session. Sharon Marley. Like Bob, Rita also had a little daughter from a previous relationship before getting married. Her name was Sharon, and she was born on November 23, 1964. When she was 2 years old, Bob legally adopted her, gave her his last name, and loved her dearly. The identity of Sharon's biological father has not been made public. After the pair bonded over music and married, they started to build their own family. Sidney Marley. Sidney Marley was born to Bob and Rita on August 23, 1967, in Kingston, Jamaica. She was a member of the Melody Makers and eventually expanded her horizons into other art forms, appearing in movies including 1989's The Mighty Quinn alongside Denzel Washington and 1993's Joey Breaker. After the Melody Makers' journey ended in 2002, Sidney became CEO of Bob's record label, Tuff Gong International, and began to focus on fashion design. Sidney married David Minto in 1993, and the pair have 2 sons, Skip and Soul Rebel. David Nesta Ziggy Marley. Perhaps the best-known Marley after Bob, Ziggy Marley was born to Bob and Rita in Kingston on October 17, 1968. Ziggy began playing music at a young age and sat in on Bob Marley and the Wailers recording sessions starting when he was just 10 years old. He formed Ziggy Marley and the Melody Makers in 1979 with siblings Sharon, Sidney, and Stephen, releasing the track Children Playing in the Streets the same year. Bob wrote the song for the group before his death, and they donated all the royalties from the tune to the United Nations during the International Year of the Child. Ziggy continued making music, releasing his debut solo album Dragonfly in 2003 and winning his 4th Grammy for his 2006 solo album Love Is My Religion. In 2010, Ziggy won a Grammy for Best Musical Album for Children for Family Time, which featured some of his siblings as well as his mom Rita and others. In total, Ziggy has won 8 Grammys from 15 nominations. Ziggy lives in Los Angeles with his wife, Orlia Guy, with whom he shares a daughter, Judah Victoria, and 3 sons, Gideon, Abraham Selassie, and Isaiah Shaun. Ziggy also has 3 children, Bambata, Justice, and Zuri, from previous relationships. Stephen Robert Nesta Marley. Stephen Marley was born to Bob and Rita on April 20, 1972, in Wilmington, Delaware. He was raised in Kingston. Joining his siblings in Ziggy Marley and the Melody Makers, 7-year-old Stephen served as the group's primary instrumentalist, providing vocals on a handful of tracks and infusing their sound with dancehall elements. In 1999, Stephen produced Chant Down Babylon, a remix and cover album of his father's tracks that spawned the hit Turn Your Lights Down Low by Lauryn Hill. In 2022, he used those producing skills again for the tribute album Celebrating Nina, a reggae tribute to Nina Simone, featuring his sister Sidney and several other artists. Like his brother Ziggy, Stephen has won many awards, including 8 Grammys from 11 nominations. Stephen is also a father, having welcomed multiple children with different women throughout his life. In December 2022, Stephen's 31-year-old son, Joseph Joe Mercer Marley, who was also a musician, died. Stephanie Marley. Rita Marley had one additional daughter, Stephanie Marley, while married to Bob in 1974. Like Sharon, Bob also adopted the young girl and included her into his family. Stephanie Marley graduated from Western University in London, Ontario, Canada, with a bachelor's in psychology. Robbie Marley. Little is known about Pat Williams, the mother of Robert Marley. However, Robert, who is affectionately called Robbie, was born in 1972 and keeps a very low profile. Careful to make sure attention stays on his father's legacy and hardly ever sharing anything about his mother's life, he said that in addition to his father being quiet, patient, and strict, he was also a teacher and a father to all, not just his children, emphasizing how he made sure that all of his children knew each other. Rohan Marley. Rohan and Robbie were born months apart by two different women. And just like Pat Williams, Rohan's mother, Janet Hunt, lives a life of obscurity, shielding her life from all of the intrusiveness of Bob's celebrity status. Rohan is a former University of Miami football player and now a serial entrepreneur. He also has a quiver full of children like his father. He has a daughter named Eden and a son Nico with his first wife Geraldine Colley, his college sweetheart whom he married in 1993. The duo divorced in 1996. After his divorce from Colley, he was in a relationship with hip-hop superstar Lauryn Hill. With the chart topper, he had 5 children: Zion, Selah, Joshua Omaru, and 2 others. Both Zion and Joshua Omaru are fathers, making Bob Marley a great-grandfather. Sharon Marley. Sharon was born in London, England, in 1973 as a result of a whirlwind romance between her mom and dad. Like her brothers, Robbie and Rohan, Sharon's mother Janet Bowen has also lived a life away from the Marley name and brand. Her mom, who was affectionately called Janet from England by Bob, allowed Sharon to be raised in Jamaica with the rest of the Marley children. As a result, she also looks to Serita and her grandmother on the island as her maternal influences. Julian Marley. Julian Marley, born in 1975, took after many of his siblings and his famous father and became a musician, songwriter, and producer. Barbados-born Lucy Pounder lived in London, where she raised her son, Julian. According to Julian, Pounder raised him modestly, allowing him to go to public school, and raising him around other Caribbean people in the United Kingdom. While the custodial parent, Pounder was generous with allowing Julian to visit his family in Jamaica every year, and by the age of 17, he moved to the island to pursue a music career and to learn the family's faith. Julian is a Grammy Award-winning artist who not only lost his father at a young age to cancer, but also lost his daughter Cavalry when she was 11 years old to the horrible disease in 2019. Immani Marley. Outside of Rita, none of Bob's children's mothers had a celebrity following except for Anita Belnavis. She was a Jamaican table tennis champion who gave birth to his son, Immani Marley, in 1976. She dated the reggae singer from 1975 to 1976. Belnavis says they selected her son's name from an East African tradition and it means adventurous traveler. Damian Marley. Damian Jr. Gone Marley is the youngest son of Bob Marley. Damian's mother is Cindy Breakspear, a Jamaican beauty queen who was crowned Miss World in 1976. He was only 2 years old when his famous father passed away in 1981. The elder Marley had built a recording studio, called Marley Music Studio, at 56 Hope Road in Kingston, the city where Damian was raised. The studio was the site of many of Bob Marley's most important recordings and drew many talented musicians who helped create the musical environment that Damian Marley grew up in. Damian made history at the 2006 Grammys when he became the first reggae artist to win 2 Grammys in the same ceremony. He won Best Reggae Album for Welcome to Jamrock and Best Urban/Alternative Performance for the album's title track. He was also the first reggae artist to win the latter award. Damian Marley prefers to keep his life secret, so it is not clear if he is married or not, although he has 2 children, Elijah Marley and Christian Marley. Mada Jan Marley. The last of Bob's children is Mada Jan Marley, who was born in 1981 in Miami to Yvette Crichton. Crichton gave birth to Mada less than 3 weeks after her famous father died. There also seemed to be no tension between Crichton and Rita, and Mada was allowed to stay with her frequently. She is a graduate of Coatesville Area Senior High School and Westchester University. Serita Stewart. The last, but not the least, is Serita Stewart. After the passing of Bob Marley in 1981, Rita Marley had one additional daughter, Serita Stewart, in 1985 with Jamaican soccer player Owen Ital Taki Stewart, Stephanie's biological father, making 2 daughters to Owen Ital Taki Stewart. Thanks for watching, and do remember to subscribe, give it a like and share your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll see you again very soon for another video.
Many thanks for watching Reggae Just Extra with Ras Dennis.